Pursuant to Standing Order 36, the question that this House do now adjourn is deemed to have been made. The member for Oshawa has given notice of dissatisfaction with the answer to a question given by the Minister of Transportation. The member has up to 5 minutes to debate the matter, and a minister or parliamentary assistant may reply for up to 5 minutes. The member from Oshawa.
Thank you, Speaker. Last week, as the Ontario NDP Shadow Minister for Infrastructure and for Transportation, I asked the Premier to hold Metrolinx to account, and I demanded answers about the problems plaguing transit projects across the province. Metrolinx is an agency that is supposed to deliver massive transportation infrastructure and services, but project after project is plagued by delays, problems, cost overruns, and secrets. When people ask questions about these multi-million-dollar projects, they're literally going off the rails. Metrolinx chooses to keep people in the dark and refuses to give answers or timelines. Why is Metrolinx allowed to keep the public in the dark with impunity? With over 100 vice presidents and a new CEO, you'd imagine Metrolinx would have had a meeting in the past 6 months with its board, but no. With stalled projects and cancelled contracts and reportedly tens of millions paid to Deutsche Bahn to end their contract, you'd think Metrolinx would have something to say, or even that the government would want to know what's going on. Bizarrely, they are still being defended by this minister and premier. Why? The massive GO expansion P3 project has collapsed, and while it sounds like it is the operations component that has collapsed, we don't know. We have asked what's going on, but Metrolinx isn't saying, and they seemingly don't have to. In the Star article from May 27th, quote, Metrolinx quietly drops Deutsche Bahn and Aecon from multi-billion-dollar GO expansion project, the spokesperson for Metrolinx would not answer questions about how much the contract with Deutsche Bahn and Aecon was worth or how much had already been paid out. We are getting the runaround from people whose duty it is to be accountable to the public. It is this government that appoints the members to the Metrolinx Board of Directors, and that board hasn't met in over 6 months. It's not doing its job, and that is not acceptable. That's right. Let's talk about the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. Today, the Premier confirmed a September opening date for the half-decade delayed Eglinton Crosstown LRT, and he said, quote, thank God. That's all I got to say about that. Well, thanking God should not be our transit strategy. We should be able to get answers from Metrolinx. And further to this hot tip from the Premier, he said that Metrolinx is expected to hand over the new Line 5 to the TTC. But guess what? The TTC has reportedly said, quote, they don't have any updated timelines at this time. Besides an update in November to a software design flaw that impacted the line signaling system, no other details have been provided on why the line has been delayed. How is that for transparency? Let's talk about boxfish. So reported on May 30th in the Star, quote, Metrolinx has ended its relationship with a transit consulting firm that has worked on the long-delayed Eglinton Crosstown and Finch West LRTs, as well as the problem-plagued Ottawa LRT. Two sources confirmed that the Provincial Transit Agency will no longer be working with Boxfish and its owner, Brian Guest, end quote. Speaker, 3 years ago, the NDP demanded an investigation into Boxfish after the Star reported that Metrolinx gave a contract to Boxfish while Boxfish CEO Brian Guest was a Metrolinx VP as an embedded private consultant. And the Minister of Transportation at the time promised to investigate. Well, because of an FOI, we found out the ministry said, quote, no record exists. Wow. The NDP asked about it. The minister insisted there had been an internal investigation, quote, and determined that the consultancy work that was being provided by Boxfish needed to come to an end, which it did at Metrolinx, end quote. Speaker, there is no evidence that an investigation occurred, and it doesn't appear that Metrolinx ended its relationship with Boxfish after all. But here we are again, guessing what the heck is going on at Metrolinx. And there are so many Metrolinx projects that communities want to know about. Can Metrolinx tell us about the East Harbour Station? I think the last time we saw it in the budget, it was $300 million. But how are things going? It's a service station with some bridge work, concrete, track work. The original plans were quite impressive. I understand it's been downgraded, but it is one station. I've heard that the cost has ballooned to over $1 billion for one station. What is going on? Good question. From the recent article, Mimico residents vowed to keep pressure on Metrolinx to make local GO station accessible. Quote, residents gathered near the Mimico GO station to demand that Metrolinx begin work as soon as possible. A Metrolinx representative told residents at the demonstration that the Ontario government has awarded a contract to begin the design phase of planned accessibility upgrades. There is no start date for construction, end quote. The president of the Mimico Residents Association has said, quote, the community is very frustrated. Patience has run out. It's been a decade of a lack of accessibility and multiple failed promises by Metrolinx. Speaker, the black box that is Metrolinx needs to get cracked open. The Premier should not be okay. We need answers and accessibility. And
the member from Hastings, Lennox and Addington.